side is quite an experienced one, and John Whittaker at fullback, a very experienced player. That's the three-quarter line. Orchard, Christian, Williams and Brereton. Halves are Sorensen and Sterling. Lock forward Krilitic. Second row is Greengrass and Eade. Front row Robert Orchard, Fisher and Gailey. Referee Keith Holman today controlling his first test match as a rugby league referee. New Zealand running right to left, conditions almost perfect, the ground in very good order, a strong breeze blowing from the west straight across the ground. Just waiting for 5'8" Sorensen to place the ball. And the New Zealand 5'8" to start play. Lock forward Sullivan for Australia, 10 yards outside his own 25. O'Reilly. Beatson this time. New Zealand defenders moving up quickly. McCarthy wide on the blind side. The New Zealanders realised he could be one of the danger men, but that is the sixth tackle, or the fourth tackle I should say, signalled by referee Holman. The scrum will be set 8 yards inside the Australian half. Comments from Kevin Ryan.
Well, the New Zealand forwards certainly look a pretty big bunch, and there's a lot of experience among them, and a lot of the decision will depend on this possession from scrums.
Sorensen's kick is a deep one. Langlands judge up well nicely with the breeze, but Australia will play it through Langlands, 12 yards out from the goal line. McCarthy. It's a good burst by the second rower up to the 25. Lost the ball, it was knocked back. Referee Holman says New Zealand can have possession and they'll play it inside the Australian 25. It's Krilitic, Orchard, Sorensen. Fisher the hooker, a dummy half. Gailey is on the 25. Last tackle coming up for New Zealand. High up and under, immediately putting pressure on Australia. Walters gathers underneath it. This could be close. Ambram, the winger, coming in. That's Elford, and the penalty to Australia. The New Zealand defence was inside the 5 yards in defence, and so Australia gets the first penalty of the match, and they'll be kicking towards the eastern touchline. Five yards outside the 25. Pop forward Beatson, O'Reilly. Two very big packs of forwards engaged today. The Australians have two 16-stone prop forwards, but they're still a little bit outweighed in the forwards overall. O'Reilly. Last tackle coming up for Australia. Langlands is up from fullback. The long kick by Langlands finds Whittaker on his own 25. And a good tackle by Elford, moving up very quickly. Sorensen. Australia today playing 5 new test players in their side. Gailey, the prop forward. He'll play it.
Well, so far we haven't seen a lot of attacking ability from either side. We haven't had much indication at all as to the ultimate outcome of this game. Both sides have been intent on knocking one another down with the ball, and it's been a negative sort of a game so far.
And another penalty going to Australia, taking the penalty count to Australia 3 and New Zealand 1. And that's after 11 minutes of the first half. Scrums are favouring New Zealand 2-0. So Australia's still to win a scrum in the match, but at least they have this penalty on the New Zealand 25, and Langland's shot for goal will be a difficult one because of this breeze, as we mentioned, blowing straight across the ground. In fact, you could see the flag on the post marking the 25-yard line blowing straight across the field. Langland's placing the ball 10 yards in from touch. No score yet after 11 minutes of play, with Australia meeting New Zealand in the first of this two-test series. Got it in the air okay, and it goes to the right. No goal. The Australians trying to keep Brereton inside his goal area. Sorensen. Long kick by Orchard. Finds Langland's on halfway. Langland's perfectly positioned to take it that time. It's noticeable when the kick does go to Langland's, the New Zealand forwards move up very quickly onto him. McCarthy. And Fulton. Starling. Starling, the centre is close. Had Harris coming inside, but good defence by New Zealand in that they prevented the centre from crossing, and the scrum will be set just outside the New Zealand line.
Well, there we saw Robin Orchard, the New Zealand prop forward, kicking that ball straight to Graham Langland's. A very poor kick, and I'm just wondering why he's worrying about kicking the ball.
Pick up the 5'8", the player for Australia. To Sullivan. Radonicus. Starling. Fulton. Straight across field. Fulton looking for the gaps. He's awfully close. 5 yards out. Good searching run by the centre, coming inside the defence all the time. Radonicus. O'Reilly. No, Radonicus has it. Langland's. Ambram. He's a hard runner. He'll score. First try of the match scored by George Ambram in his first test match, and Australia leads by 3 points to 0.
Well, a good long pass there by Graham Langland's gave George Ambram a bit of room, and he ran very strong, a very strong bumping run, and forced his way past three tacklers in the process to score a good strong try there in the corner.
We'll watch the long pass now from Langland's, cutting out Starling.
Well, there was certainly a good strong run there by George Ambram, the Australian winger, but I thought the defence, or the first attempt at defence by Philip Orchard, the Kiwi winger number 2, was a very poor effort. He just stood there and attempted to wrap his arms around Ambram.
Better kick by Langland's, but that time he allowed less for the breeze and no goal. It is still 3 points to 0. Again, Sorensen placing the ball for the restart of play. To Harris. He's a hard runner too, and look at the winger. Referee Holman was knocked to the ground. What a charging run by the winger.
Well, the New Zealanders will soon realise that he's not built like most wingers. He's built bigger than most forwards. Mark Howson's a very tremendously strong man.
So Radonicus a dummy half, still in the Australian half. Langland's to kick. Dropped by Philip Orchard. That will be a scrum for the knocked on. No, it's not. It's a penalty against the Australian players. Moving up in front of the kicker and going inside the 5 yards. So New Zealand get the penalty just outside their 25. Not a good pass by the New Zealanders. Sorensen to run it out on the blind side. Straight into Beatson, and what a tackle. You don't want to cop too many of those in one day from Arthur Beatson. Another crashing tackle by Starling moving through. McCarthy chasing after it. The ball still lost, and Whittaker has it for New Zealand inside his goal area. And one of the Australian, no, they're not. It's going to be a restart of play underneath the New Zealand posts. So Eade is all right, and just receiving some attention over the dead ball line. And a penalty to Australia. The kick-off not going 10 yards. The New Zealanders finding the Australians standing deep, went for a shallow kick. It didn't come off. It didn't go the required 10 yards. The kick for Australia will be taken right in front of the posts, and Langland should notch the first goal of the match from right in front.
Well, the Kiwis are certainly rattled when an international 5'8" would do a silly thing like that. Virtually a gift of 2 points in a test match is completely unpardonable, and whilst of course we know what he was trying to do, namely to drop it short of where the Australians were standing, with such a feeble attempt that it's just hard to believe it was possible in an international game.
Making no mistake with that, and Australia go to a lead of 5 points to nil. Australia 5, New Zealand 0, with about 19 minutes gone in the first half.
For Australia, kicked by number 1, Captain Graham Langdon.
So a handy lead established by the Australian side, although we're only halfway through the first half. That kick going the 10 yards. O'Reilly took it nicely. Beatson. It was a good tackle too by Krilitic. Rudonikus on the blind side. McCarthy. Langlands. Another long kick, putting pressure on Philip Orchard, the winger, again. On his 25. Starling the tackler, and Christian now. Run into touch by 5'8" pickup, and the scrum will be set just outside the New Zealand 25.
Pickup looked a lot stronger there than his size would indicate. He threw Christian down very strongly there at the end. He's only a little fella pickup, but obviously a lot stronger than he looks.
Another of the Australians playing in his first test. Scrum is 30 yards out from the New Zealand line after 19 minutes of the first half. Australia leading 5 points to nil. Penalty to New Zealand. Hook feet up in the scrum on the part of the Australian front row, and New Zealand had the pressure relieved for them with a kick just outside their 25. Taken by 5'8" Sorensen. Play up to halfway. Good doubling around by the forwards. The ball dropped and knocked on, so a scrum will be set still almost on halfway.
Well, New Zealand are going nowhere so far. They're certainly trying something there, but no one's really running forward. No one's going hard onto the ball, and they're just not breaking the Australian line.
Scrum won by the Australians. Ambram waiting for the pass on the blind side. It's O'Reilly. Greengrass, the tackler, getting right underneath the big Australian prop. Sullivan, the lock forward, midway between the New Zealand half and 25. Fourth tackle coming up. Finds O'Reilly. Fulton, quick passing, Langlands. It's a good palm off too. Sullivan with it. Beatson now. Pick up. High kick in the air. Whittaker dropping back. Well taken by the fullback. Tackled by Fulton. He'll play it. Greengrass. Orchard. Quick passing now by the New Zealanders. That's better play. Christian out to Philip Orchard. Ambram has it. Ambram will be in for his second try. Well, what a great start to an international career. George Ambram in for his second try. Australia going to a lead of 8 points to nil. 21 minutes gone. And let's have a look at that try. Ambram second in action replay.
Well, Roy Christian, the centre and captain for New Zealand, got that ball away beautiful as he went down, and it was quite an easy pass for the winger Orchard. he missed it, and Ambram was very alert.
Again, allowing more for the breeze that time. It looks good. It's there.
Well, that's certainly bad luck for New Zealand there, or poor bad something or other, but to be down 10 points to 0 at this stage of a test match is certainly not a very promising start for the Kiwis.
Starling. Good break by the centre. Ambram outside. How fast is he? Looking for support and into touch. Scrum being set just on halfway. 15 minutes to go in the first half. Australia are leading by 10 points to 0, and New Zealand have the ball inside their own half. It's Williams, the centre. Fisher. Greengrass. Two prop forwards combining in the tackle there. Long pass out to Philip Orchard. Through Ambram's tackle. Good run by the winger that time to take play down to within 10 yards of the Australian line with the fifth tackle, or the fourth tackle signalled.
Yes, Orchard looked there as though he can do things in attack, and we certainly hope he can, and hope for his sake that he can atone for those early blunders in defence there.
Rodonica's 10 yards out, playing it for Australia. Elford. O'Reilly now. Elford wasn't expecting it, but ran onto it well. Whittaker. Elford got him too. Followed his kick through well. It's Fisher. Getting out of O'Reilly's tackle. Rodonica's across to get him. Advantage rule played. Harris has it. Gets around Brereton, but he was ankle tapped and he'll play it. Sullivan on the blind side. Two tackles to go for Australia. O'Reilly. Pick up. Quick long pass. Fulton. Fulton over halfway. Ambram is coming in field. Fulton can't outpace him, and ankle tap by Williams. He'll see a scrum being set with Fulton taking play to inside the New Zealand 25.
Well, that was great work by Pickup, the 5'8". He got that pass away beautifully to Bobby Fulton there as the defence was bearing right down on him. He wasn't overawed at all. Coolly and calmly got the pass away and directed it well.
Christian in the centres. Starting the tackler. Brereton now. Gets away from Harris. Pickup coming across. And Sullivan. Great tackle, Sullivan. Good run, nevertheless, by Brereton. Sterling. New Zealand forwards now combining. Fisher, the hooker. A good tackle by Pickup. Long passing. Whittaker in the movement from fullback. Good unloading of the ball. Williams. Enterprising play by New Zealand, taking play to within the Australian 25. That's Orchard. Fisher again. Scrum for the fourth tackle, 15 yards out from the Australian line, and applause for a determined New Zealand effort from this large crowd.
Well, that's the sort of thing we've come to expect from test matches, and it's good to see the Kiwis revealing that they can throw that ball around, they can play attacking football. So we hope there'll be a lot more interest in the game now.
11 minutes before half-time, Australia leading 10-0. Australian ball, Langland's to play it. Quick pass out to Ambram. Not into touch, he'll play it. Last tackle to go for Australia. Pick up. Good dummy by the 5'8". Pick up is up to Beatson. The prop forward down the middle of the field. Standing up, waiting for the support. Knocked back, ruled by referee Holman. Pick up. And that is play on. New Zealand gaining. Sorensen to play it for New Zealand, 10 yards out. Pass in field. Sorensen to Christian. Lost the ball. Scrum for the knock-on, 20 yards out from the New Zealand posts.
Well, that's more enterprising football. Christian looks a very classy centre. I'm quite impressed by the way he can move himself. He's got a good step. He handles the ball nicely, and he should prove an inspiration to the New Zealand back line.
About 9 minutes to go before half-time, and the scrum is 20 yards out from the New Zealand line. An Australian ball with Rodonicus flicking up with Fulton. Langlands, well tackled. It's Rodonicus. Good sharp break. McCarthy. McCarthy is close. His momentum almost took him over there. Langland's a dummy half. That's Sullivan. He's over. Australia's third try, scored by lock forward Gary Sullivan. Australia leading now, 13 points to 0. 9 minutes to go before half-time.
Well, that was a short, determined run there by Gary Sullivan, the Newtown lock forward, who he plays second row with Newtown.
Another good-looking kick from Langlands, but again allowed too much for the breeze. No goal.
In a test match, we might have expected that a couple of Kiwis there would have grabbed that player and hurled him back over the line, or at least turned him over on his back to prevent him forcing the ball, but they seemed to very meekly and mildly go over with him, and there wasn't much determination in that defence at all.
Sorensen's kick goes to McCarthy and intercepted by Beatson, but some of the New Zealand players were in front of the kicker, and so the penalty goes to Australia. Penalty count shows Australia 5 and New Zealand 4. Williams is 10 yards from the 25. Now New Zealand attacking. Sorensen's pass goes floating in the air. Sterling to Brereton. 20 yards out from the Australian line. Rodonicus just short of the 25 for Australia. Australia leading now by 13 points to 0. 3 tries have been scored and 2 goals. And the break by McCarthy takes play up towards halfway. He's too fast for Whittaker. Pickup is going with him. Whittaker's catching on him and lost the ball. Whittaker, the New Zealand fullback.
Well, that was great determination by Whittaker. He stuck with McCarthy, who's a very fast man, and finally got to him and got the ball out off him.
Green grass to play it for New Zealand, just outside the New Zealand 25. New Zealand see the kick go through to Langlands, up to halfway.
I only wish for the sake of New Zealand that their big prop forward Orchard would worry more about running with the ball than kicking the ball as he is. He's kicked it away to Graham Langlands on a couple of occasions now.
Rodonicus to play it. Pick up. Beatson wide. Starling finds the gap. Good dummy. Starling is through the defence. This is another try to Australia. A good run. The movement finished off by a perfect dummy by Starling to bring up Australia's 4th try. 16 points to 0. Let's see that in action replay.
Well, Starling showed all the promise here that we've come to expect from him. He had a strong run, a swerve there, and finished it off with fine pace.
Just falling short underneath the crossbar. Still no goal, so it's still 16 points to 0 with 5 minutes to go before half-time.
Well, this seems to be one of the byproducts of the 4-tackle rule, that we have prop forwards worrying about kicking the ball instead of running with it and doing something with it. And on several occasions there, and we've seen Orchard now, the big New Zealand pup who can move with the ball and can run fast. He seems to be worrying more about kicking the thing than getting onto it and running with it.
Sullivan midway between the Australian 25 and half. O'Reilly. Beaton. Up to halfway now. Play on. 4 tackles to go now for Australia. Good pass by Elford to Fulton. Fulton around Whittaker, going for the corner. Fulton will score again for Australia.
Well, that was a great break there by Johnny Elford. He brushed off a couple of tacklers, run hard, lined up Bobby Fulton beautifully to get his pass away and put Fulton in the clear there.
Good kick, it's there. Langland's third goal. Australia 21, New Zealand 0. 2 minutes to go before half-time.
Well, so far from the Kiwis, well, at the start they looked enthusiastic in their defence. They were moving up quickly, but I noticed even at that early stage they're inclined to scrag at the ball carrier instead of driving into him and knocking him down. And this is becoming very evident now that there's very few good driving tackles by the Kiwis. They're more scragging varieties, and instead of lining someone up and dropping the shoulder and driving into them.
Well taken, Langlands over the 25. O'Reilly. Beaton. Elford. Took the ball well on the burst, but the defence had him covered. Kick through by Rhodonicus. Whittaker having to drop back for it. Now the Australian forwards moving up immediately. There's Rhodonicus, the kicker, to get his man. Beatson, the tackler. Good tackle. Christian with the ball. That's a strong driving tackle by Elford.
That's the sort of tackle I'd like to see the Kiwis exploiting. That was a beautiful tackle by Elford.
New Zealand in trouble again to run play out from their 25. Gailey to play it. And that's a scrum coming back to inside the New Zealand 25 with the kick going out over the touch line on the full. Scrum to be served again.
And the scrum seem to be about the only department so far that the Kiwis are holding their own, but not in that one.
Pick up. Rhodonicus to Starling. Over halfway. He accelerated beautifully then. Only had about a yard or so gap in front of him, and he went through it like a bullet. Out to Beatson. Pick up. Keeping the ball alive. Langlands going straight through. Caught head high. That will be half-time. And at half-time, Australia are leading New Zealand by 21 points to 0. Sorensen, the 5'8", he'll play it. Midway between the Australian 25 and half. Hooker Fisher. Orchard. And Christian. Good backing up by the New Zealanders. Eade, the second rower, in the centre of the Australian 25. It's Gailey. Williams went through him. Elford has it for Australia. He'll play it. Walters. The Australian hooker now is just outside the Australian 25. O'Reilly on the burst. Has Beatson going with him. Langlands. That kick could be too long with the breeze. It is out on the full.
Well, the Australian forwards seem to be loosening up more in their running too. There we saw Bob O'Reilly putting Beatson through, and then Bob McCarthy flying along to get it off Beatson, but he didn't. Beatson wasn't able to get his pass away.
Sorensen on the 25. New Zealand now on the attack. Gailey. Lost the ball, and it will be a scrum for the knock-on. Penalty to New Zealand. So this is the first real chance that New Zealand has had so far in the match to put their first points on the board.
I'll be very surprised if New Zealand attempt to go for the 2 points here, because 2 points will be of no advantage whatsoever at this stage. They should be kicking it out and going for a try now.
Well, that's exactly what they're not going to do, Kevin. They're going to have a shot for goal through prop forward Robert Orchard, right on the 25. Not a difficult kick, and he shouldn't have too much trouble with it. Good looking kick. It's there. New Zealand's first points. Australia 21, New Zealand 2 after 5 minutes of the second half.
It's very, very important for New Zealand to be able to score a try. From the point of view of the morale of their side, they must find out that they can break the Australian line. And that's the time I would have been kicking the ball out there and going for a try, just to prove to everyone in the side, prove to the New Zealanders that they can score tries, and it might have made a lot of difference later on in their game.
Long kick. Whittaker up towards the 25. O'Reilly the tackler. Orchard. Gailey. Fisher. Out to Sorensen. And Raudonikis up quickly on his man. Penalty against Tommy Raudonikis too.
Well, perhaps the penalty could easily have gone the other way, because one of the New Zealanders interfered with Tommy Raudonikis there as he was tackling the New Zealand player, and that technically that is the second tackle.
So 10 yards out now from the Australian line, and the New Zealanders attacking. Fisher to Krilitic to Orchard. And the halfback Sterling almost through. Langland's ordering his forwards back into position. New Zealand on the attack. Brereton on the wing. Strong tackle by Abram. He clung to him all the way. That's Christian. Well, the ball is actually under Christian's back, but he's being allowed to play it. And then referee Holman saw the where the ball was, and he's ordering the scrum because Christian didn't really have the ball. And Abram gaining possession for Australia. The New Zealanders slow to pick the ball up from the scrum. Raudonikis. O'Reilly. That's a long kick by Langlands. Whittaker having to drop back to take it. Fulton, the man charging it down with pick-up. Whittaker will have to play it, and the New Zealanders now only just coming back on side. Sullivan chasing the ball towards the touchline. Well picked up by Harris. And against the New Zealanders, offside. You could see that there were several of them standing in front of the man with the ball. It's a quick tap kick for Australia, keeping the pressure on. McCarthy. Australia midway between the New Zealand 25 and half. Let's pick up. Elford. On the burst pickup. Up to the 25, support inside Walters, away to Sullivan on his way to the line. That's another try, and Sullivan second. That try to Australia coming through, good backing up. The break's made and men there to back up all the time. 24 points to 2 the score. We'll have a look at the try and action replay.
Well, that was great football, great combination by Australia. The initial break, as you see, will be made by number 9, John Elford, who bustles a couple of players off, gets his pass away to pick up, and he turns it back inside while Walters onto the eventual try scorer, Gary Sullivan. It's good.
It's there, another 2 points. Australia 26, New Zealand 2, with 25 minutes remaining in the game.
Number 1, fullback Graham Langdon.
McCarthy for Australia. O'Reilly. Again against the New Zealanders, once more standing up inside the 5 yards in defence. Langlands for the western touchline, gained some 20 yards. Rodonicus, O'Reilly, Fulton to Langlands, couldn't take it. Gailey to play it midway between the New Zealand 25 and half. Orchard. Sorensen's kick goes towards Harris on the 25. Well, let's see the run that this man unleashes. Sullivan. Rodonicus with him up to halfway. He'll play it there. 2 tackles to go for Australia. McCarthy. Fulton got away beautifully that time. Ambram coming inside. Fulton still going up to the 25. Fulton 20 yards out, playing it for Australia on the 4th tackle. Long pass out to Sullivan. Scooped up by Fisher. He'll have to play it 10 yards out from the 25. It's green grass. O'Reilly the tackler. It's Gailey. Krilatic's kick is for the touchline. Harris didn't knock on, but it's good work by Krilatic. New Zealand regain, and Krilatic could have been away had he not tripped. Orchard now. New Zealand still in possession midway between the Australian half and 25. Krilatic. New Zealand lock having a fair game in the second half. He's on the Australian 25. Orchard. Penalty against Beatson, ruled offside in defence. Australia leading 26 points to 2 after 18 minutes of the second half, and the penalty means another shot for goal by Orchard as he's placing the ball not far to the left of centre field on the 25.
Well, if he does kick at 2 points, I feel will be very small consolation at this stage with only about 22 minutes to go and 24 points behind. Well, 2 points is really meaningless. I feel again they should be going to try and get this initial try to try and break the Australian line.
Orchard all set for the kick, and the strong breeze which is blowing this afternoon, and very cold one too at that, upsetting the lie of the ball. Timeout being ruled by referee Holman. The attendance today at the match 29,700 for this first test between Australia and New Zealand. He's got it, another 2 points. Australia 26, New Zealand 4, with 21 minutes remaining in the match.
For New Zealand, kicked by number 8, Robert Orchard.
Langlands to restart play for Australia. Brereton the winger. Greengrass, Gailey, Fisher, Sterling the halfback, and Radonica sticking with him but letting him go. Nice tackle by Sullivan. New Zealand taking play to halfway. It's Fisher. Again Sullivan the tackler. Brereton. And Beatson the tackler, not putting his man into touch. Whittaker is away. Whittaker could score for Australia, who will for New Zealand. First try of the match for New Zealand, scored by fullback Whittaker. Australia 26, New Zealand 7, 20 minutes to go in the match, and we'll have a look at that try in action replay.
Well, it's good to see New Zealand get that first try. It was a good run there by Breton on the far wing that set it up, and Beatson missed him back inside to fullback Whittaker, who was backing up, and he had an unobstructed run to the line.
The conversion attempt to be taken by prop forward Robert Orchard. Not a bad looking kick. It's high in the air. It's a good kick. It's there. Australia 26, New Zealand 9, and that's making the score look a little bit more respectable as, for the New Zealanders, with some 20 minutes still remaining in the match.
It could be said that the Australians appeared a little bit disinterested there. They probably had such a commanding lead that they've become a little bit lethargic, and no doubt they'll smarten up a little bit after that try.
It's Whittaker. Back to Langlands. Over halfway. Radonicus, pick up, Starling. Good run, Fulton coming up outside him. Starling will play it, short of the 25. Pick up, O'Reilly, Beatson, McCarthy, over the 25. One tackle to go for the Australians, 20 yards out from the New Zealand line. Pick up, Radonicus, the halfback through, Sullivan outside him. Radonicus only 5 yards short. Scrum for the fourth tackle to go down.
Well, Australia seemed to have been galvanised into action again after that try, and there was some fine running there, but unfortunately when the attack is restricted to 4 tackles today as against the normal 6 in Australia, it limits the chances of a try very severely.
New Zealand 5'8" Sorensen has been replaced, has not as yet been replaced, but he's leaving the ground and shortly will be, with the penalty going to New Zealand.
Well, that's pretty poor tactics to have someone off the field in a test match, but fortunately now he has been replaced.
And the replacement player is O'Sullivan, who looks as though he's going over into the centres, so New Zealand having to reshuffle their back line. It's Philip Orchard, Krilitic, Sorensen, Williams to play it. Whittaker. Penalty to New Zealand. Beatson penalised for raking the ball off the New Zealand forward. $26 points to 9 the score. Australia leading with 13 minutes remaining. Orchard's kick up towards halfway, not into touch. Is now, Langland's touched it, but it means that New Zealand don't get the advantage of an automatic second kick. Scrum to go down just on halfway. For New Zealand, Williams has moved into 5'8" and O'Sullivan into the centres.
A change in the New Zealand lineup. Dave Sorensen, number 6.
Pick up to Ambram.
Got injured.
Got straight through Greengrass.
John O'Sullivan.
Ambram has really had a fine test debut today, scoring 2 tries and being a solid runner. Radonicus now, another of the new boys in the Australian test side. O'Reilly, Beatson, pick up. Fulton has McCarthy going inside. McCarthy's there. McCarthy in to score for Australia. An orthodox move, centre running wide, inside to a forward backing up. Australia's 7th try, 29 points to 9. Here's that try in action replay.
Well, there was good combination and anticipation there by Bob McCarthy. The ball came back across the line. He anticipated Fulton's speed, came inside him, and Fulton timed the pass beautifully.
So Langland's conversion, 5 yards to the left of the posts, 20 yards out. Never in doubt that. 31 points to 9, and quite a commanding lead for Australia in this first test match.
Well, Australia scored the try that they've been threatening to score for about 5 or 10 minutes now, and previously they just didn't have time to finish it off, but that time we saw an enthusiastic Fulton and McCarthy show just that they were determined to score the try, and they did it effortlessly.
Scrums are favouring Australia by 12 to 9, penalties favouring New Zealand by 11 to 8. Australia have the ball on their own 25. McCarthy. Walters. O'Reilly, quick passing to Beatson. Another long kick by Langlands, going close to the touchline. Whittaker back for it. On the 25. Langlands back.
Graham Langlands probably can't believe his luck in a test match there. He's had New Zealand forwards breathing down his neck on several occasions now, and he hasn't been put to the ground yet. No one has knocked him down. He's been given a real picnic there at fullback.
At least he's not winning this kicking duel, because Whittaker is steadily forcing him back. And as you can see, Australia now have the ball, or had it, on their own goal line. So Whittaker has really out-kicked Langlands in this distance, in this kicking exchange. Langlands still putting it back. Whittaker, he's going to run it over halfway. New Zealand have it. They're inside the Australian half. Gailey. It's Christian, a penalty against the Australians. Offside in defence. 31 points to 9, 9 minutes to go.
I would have thought that it would have been more important to try and score a try, at least to convince themselves for the second test that they are able to break the Australian line.
It's there. Another 2 points to New Zealand takes them into double figures. Australia 31, New Zealand 11, with 7.5 minutes to go in the match. Another long kick by Langlands to Whittaker. On his 25 to play it there. Gailey. Orchard, a small kick over the top, he could regain. Sullivan is back there for Australia. Sullivan will play it 10 yards inside the New Zealand half. Beaton gets the ball away, but it went loose to New Zealand. Whittaker. Brereton. Long kick. Bounces in the field of play and finds touch. Good kick by the winger. Play now into the Australian half.
Well, I suppose it was a good kick in terms of gaining yardage, but I think that at this stage of the game he should have been kicking infield, hoping that either himself or some of his inside supports could have got to the ball and kept it alive and possibly try and picked up a try.
5 minutes to go now. Australia leading 31 points to 11. Scrum is just inside the Australian half and served by Rodonicus. It's Williams. Christian and O'Sullivan, the replacement player. Fisher to play it. Last tackle for New Zealand. Williamson ran onto it nicely to Harris. Australia 10 yards from halfway. Walters. Rodonicus. What a good break by the halfback. Great run, looking for the support. It's there. McCarthy over the 25, on his way to the line. Another try to Bob McCarthy. That try started by halfback Tommy Rodonicus. Australia 34, New Zealand 11. 4.5 minutes to go. Here's that try in action replay.
That was a tremendous break by Tommy Rodonicus. He showed tremendous speed off the mark, and once he got going, he cut players, he cut the defence to pieces, sidestepping, swerving and turning around there, pivoting, and there was just no chance of stopping McCarthy once he got it.
Another 2 points converted by Langlands, 36 points to 11, and only a couple of minutes remaining.
Well, it's just a case of Australia being too good today, and probably too big as well. Whilst we have a couple of 17 stoners appearing in the program for New Zealand, one of them being Robin Orchard, the prop forward, I feel that a lot of that weight is surplus, and this applies to a fair few of those New Zealand forwards. I think they're overweight. They probably haven't had a chance yet to get conditioned. They probably could be said they should have been conditioned before they came, but they've had a very short time in Australia to condition themselves, and they're obviously just not test match fit at this stage.
Pick up. O'Reilly. Beatson. Let's pick up. Fulton. Got around Gailey quite easily. McCarthy has Ambram outside. Ambram down the touchline, down to Whittaker. Whittaker coming across. McCarthy, no. Fulton knocked on the line, no try.
Well, another great run by Ambram. He showed probably more pace than we thought he had there. He looked as though he might have just got away, but Whittaker had a bit too much pace for him, and that's not surprising because we saw Whittaker run down Bob McCarthy, who had a big start over him in the first half. But it was a strong, determined run by the Georgie M.
Play almost up to full time. The clock showing less than a minute to go. Australia leading 36 points to 11, and the siren sounds now. Play will restart, however. Pick up to the 25. And that is the end of the match. Australia defeating New Zealand by 36 points to 11. For Australia, 2 tries each to Ambram, Sullivan and McCarthy, 1 each to Starling and Fulton. Langlands kicked 6 goals. For New Zealand, a try scored by Whittaker, and Robert Orchard kicked 4 goals. Australia defeating New Zealand in the first test at the Sydney Cricket Ground by 36 points to 11.